to start the process to hire the fourth employee in the water wastewater. The fourth position was in the planning process to ensure the city to have a licensed operator based on past experiences when someone leaves or retires.
So it was always our plan, once Wade got all of his license, that's when James Forstner came on. Now John Turney can take his B license and he has water, now number 4 can come on. And so since we all know that the job market out there is wonderful, and we thought we'd just get ahead of the game a little bit and get the ball rolling. So on tonight's agenda, there is, if we approve to advertise for that position. Also in your packet is the job description, also.
Now is this just an entry level, and then we basically OJT on the job training type thing?
Well, yeah, if we're lucky,
They can evolve.
yeah, we're looking at it that this person, I mean, if they got their license, even better. I mean, obviously, we'll deal with that if we actually get that. If they don't have their license, let's start here, and then, what does it take, 7 years to actually progress? Six.
To a B.
To a B, so it takes that many years just to get all the license. But if everybody remembers, we ran in, we actually contract right now with the city of St. James for our wastewater license. When John passes it, then we don't have to contract with St. James anymore.
Okay.
But that was always kind of the plan since previous operator took a different job or left.
Yeah.
We were hoping to have one operator licensed and at least one trying to pursue the license at all times, just so that we don't have to.
Do like what we just did now.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because if it isn't St. James, then it's Bolton and Mink or
People services.
People Services.
And that's very, very costly. You're basically paying for an employee right there.
Okay.
So we don't own this.
Like, what do you mean own this?
With John taking the test, we won't be contracting out, we will be
Yeah,
all
and
in-house.
that's where we want it to be.
Makes sense.
Yep, that's what I meant. Thank you, Mark, for clarifying.
Okay,
Do we wanna go back to number 1 then?
we can, since Ryan's here.
We started early.
Oh, that's right.
Chief Fisher is here asking for council approval to advertise for positions in the fire department. These positions are available due to retirements and relocations.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate in Medelia. Be upfront is that we are actually technically right now overstaffed in the number of people that we need, or that, and typically we've had 28 or 27. Is it Haley now?
Big size.
That's only supposed to be.
Yeah, you know, I was out looking at the clouds earlier and they weren't doing anything though. So 28 folks. We have 32. However, 32 puts us at the ideal situation with so many folks working out of town, with the busy, times of people having kids in sports, not being around on weekends, that type of thing, and that's worked really well the last couple of years. We have the realism that about 3 and potentially 4 people will not be on the department by the end of this year, just through retirements and through moving. And so one potential is we could stay where we're at, and when they leave, we'll be at our head count 28. The concern I have with that is it doesn't take a rocket science to know. I mean, she talked about labor, but specifically fire departments everywhere are struggling. St. James has had a heck of a time, and they have almost twice the population we do of recruiting to get to their head count. Medelia's been very lucky that we haven't had that on the fire department, but we did see what happened on the ambulance department, that they had a heck of a time. I mean, unfortunately, the age of volunteerism is done. And so I guess what I'm looking at is bringing on 3 to 4, depending on the qualifications of the candidates, and at least interview for them and see where we're at. The last thing we really want to do is become behind in candidates for the fire department. I just can't stress that enough. there are departments in our county that are below the minimum of 10 that they literally have people on their department just to have a department. So we don't want to be in that position.
So is there something in the bylaws or policy that says 28 is full, or?
Fire department doesn't have bylaws anymore. We run through city ordinance.
So what's
what-
setting the cap?
Yep, what it is the township agreement talks about the number of firefighters. And so the city essentially takes on the burden, if I wanna say that, of these 4 additional firefighters, as we've done the last 2 years, 3 years. But it's a council thing. I think it's just good gesture whenever bringing anybody on, because there are potential liabilities to the city. You know, for example, on the retirement aspect, you know, that's a self-funding retirement plan. But with the nature of the stock market that it's been, you know, the city does have to kick in, we've done that in the past, kicked in contributions. They haven't in the last few years, or been very small amounts. But, you know, there are costs to it. But labor budget-wise, we've not had any issues. In fact, we've always been under. So even with our 32 people in terms of our budget line for labor, we've still been under. So, you know, providing that we don't have an incredibly busy year, you know, if we had a normal year, we are fine labor-wise. So, and from a aspect of team, it's better to have 2 or 3 or 4 people go to class at one time versus just one, because they develop that skill. You know, the people, you can tell the groups in the department that I went to school together, because they kind of talk amongst themselves. Not that they're a clique, but that they have that commonality to them. So.
I think it's that learning curve, that mesh between each other, that confidence.
Yep, they're vulnerable at the same time, they learn at the same time, yep.
Do you think it makes sense to reset that to 32 or what?
Well, we just amended the township agreement. I think we'll stay with that amount, like that 27.
27 or 28, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It might be
Stay with that
27.
in the township agreement. That does not necessarily mean that any new hires should come to you guys. So we're adding more employees on, so.
And I, as chief, I would feel comfortable wanting to talk to you guys before.
Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm here for. And that should be a budget neutral thing, you know what I mean? That shouldn't cost anything more or less with that minor overlap. In the past, and I'm talking distant past, so I'm talking over 5 years ago prior to me becoming chief, we used to hire in October and November, and then they would start class like right away. And when I became chief, I saw the value in the people that I went to class with who were on, like typically I would advertise this so that they would come on around mid-July, late July, so that they get some basic firefighting experience. They don't do any frontline work, but they get the exposure so that when they go to class, it's not like just learning it. I mean, we don't have the number of calls that within a week or 2 they're gonna get a broad exposure of calls, so it's nice to have them on. We just don't wanna be behind the 8 ball on that.
And it also assumes this allows you to be selective with your candidate.
What's that?
This also allows you to be selective with your candidate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've been in a position where we have been. Last candidate round, I think we had 5 people. 5 people, but we had hired 3. So, and even of that, one of them's not with us anymore, they moved. So.
I do have that as an agenda item tonight. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, thoughts on it?
And if we have a little bit of time, can I talk about something else? Is that okay, Chris? So now we have this township agreement in place, and I guess I'm here to answer questions for you, but I'm here to describe kind of what we did. It's a big move in the fire department. In the past, we have typically always, if we needed a truck, and like we did this truck, we thought we were gonna get a new truck for $375. As we know, now that truck is $500, it's not $525. And so the thing is that now we're kind of looking maybe at use, being more fiscally responsible with our dollars. And the thing is that, but we've always kind of went to the townships and went to you guys and said, okay, we'd like to buy a truck. So then we save for 4 years, 5 years, we buy that truck, but then we would stop saving. And then we'd wait till we need a new truck, Then we do that, and it was always a process. And the challenge with that is that you end up then with a couple 30-year-old pumpers. You end up, you know, our tanker fleet is pretty darn good. Our rescue truck could always look at improvement, but it serves its purpose. Our grass rig is fine. But the thing is that you're always kind of behind. And with this new township agreement, townships don't like the budget like that, because one year it's like this, because they're putting away for capital, then the next year it's down, and up and down. Same for city, up and then down. And, you know, a lot of this was, you know, Chris is always keeps on talking about, what do you need, let's plan for it, is that we went to now where the townships are paying a little less than what they were paying going forward, paying for the pumper that we were saving for, but they're gonna pay that every year. And this agreement now is a 10-year agreement, it's gonna be revisited, right?
We're gonna revisit it every year.
Yeah. But they, 10 years now, we're gonna have capital investment in our equipment, which is huge. We've never had that before. And the city will have matched that same capital investment for their portion of the fire service, which is about 43%, I believe, or 42%. And then the townships pay the other part. So every year now, we'll be putting away $29-ish thousand, right? Or is it more than that? I think it's like $29,000, $27,000 each year for capital equipment, whereas in the past, we'd go from 35 to 0. 37 to 0, you know what I mean? And so we have that going on. But that part of that is, and what that created the buying for the townships was, is that they weren't terribly interested, and quite honestly, as a taxpayer, neither am I, of paying $500,000 for a new pumper. You know, because if we have that pumper, Cody and I talked about this, if we have that pumper for 30 years, and we use it 20 times a year, which would be actually probably more than what we'd actually use it, because we only use it at fires or at trainings or at pump tests. So if we used it 20 times a year, every time we started up that pumper, it would be $833 for those 30 years. Is that really a good steward of dollars for Madelia citizens? And so we're gonna be looking at used equipment, but used equipment that has a good life still to it. But let somebody else take the hit on brand new purchase and us come in and swoop it in. But that challenge is, as you know, is that used equipment goes, the good of used equipment goes fast. You can see the used equipment that and that sits out there for a long time, but the good used equipment goes fast. And so right now, we have what we had budgeted up until now for the used pumper, which is approximately 230-ish.
$223.
I like 230 better, but let's go with 230.
Whatever.
Whatever, but we have that much money in that capital investment. Now, I'm not suggesting we go out and spend that right now. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that we are now in a position where we can start looking at replacing that 30-year-old pumper. Actually 31 years old now. And so the thing is that I guess I need to know what your guys' direction is in terms of going with that. Do we want to put out there a dollar amount reserve, or do we want to say that if something comes up, that you guys are willing to do an emergency vote to proceed with it?
I think we need, so, what I hear you're saying, and I would have the council correct me 100% on this, I think we need to set aside a reserve so that you can act and act decisively if something comes available. Because the fact that you're being a good steward of the financials is awesome. We do need to get the right, we don't want garbage.
Right, right.
And so if this one pops up, we need to get after it. And so I would argue that that's what we need to do, is that we set it aside, and then if it goes beyond that, we set it aside a certain amount. If it goes beyond that amount, then we'll have to come back to the council. We set aside an amount so that you have that spending authority.
And keep in mind that it's not just me. How leadership works in the fire department is that we all, so all the captains, all the assistant chiefs have to agree with it before we would proceed with it. So like any major purchase that we do, it's not just the chief saying, yes, we need that, or somebody, it's actually a collective effort among the leadership.
Well, I think you just got a key point here. The fact of the matter is, part of the culture of this community is our fire department and the way they responded 7 years ago. Part of it is because of how good our police department is. I mean, that's what makes us different, and we cannot short sell that. We've got to stay after that. So,
I agree.
The other point I'd like to make is the fact that now that that new agreement is there, you guys should develop a budget and maybe a game plan for equipment replacement, knowing what you have coming in.
Yep, that's exactly what we're doing.
So if there's a 2025 equipment need or a 2027 equipment need, then we can start, you know, actually, and then prioritize depending on, you know, your expected life expectancy of the remaining equipment. And hopefully those two meld without much issue, but
And they, you know, the nice thing is we have that continued thing. Our two priorities right now are both pumpers. So the 92 pumper is in need of replacement. The 96 pumper is in need, or gonna be in need, you know. But the nice thing is by having this revenue coming in consistently, we don't need to do a new campaign every 5 or 6 years. And then, because of course, by the time that 5 or 6 years is done, shoot, we didn't save enough. You know what I mean? And so, and how do you forecast that, especially in the volatility we're now? So yeah, that's exactly why we did it. Plus, then the townships can budget consistently every year. The city budget can be consistent every year. But it puts us in a position that we've never been in before. It's huge. I mean, it really is game changing for the fire department. So.
Go big or go home.
Is that something I have to abstain on when we vote on something like that now?
Are you
Assistant
one
chief.
of the, yeah,
You think
assistant
assistant
chief,
chief.
so you're one of the people that he's saying in the chain of command, so yes, please abstain from the vote, thank you. But, right now, we would then need to add that as a council agenda item. Do you wanna discuss the amount that you would like to put on reserve?
So Chief, what amount are we looking for?
I would say that if we can, and obviously Chris would be a part of this discussion as well, but I would say
So
150.
do we need to sort that out another time?
Do you wanna take it, we can bring it to next council.
Or,
Well, that's fine. I mean, I guess it's a pretty simple process because ultimately any one of us have veto power. If I don't think it's a good idea, I could say no and then it goes away. Or Mark could say no and go away, or Chris could say no and it goes away really
so
fast.
my fear is, what's in the budget?
Was that 230 or 223?
Yeah, it's
23.
So what I would say is 150, which to be fair is on the low end of what we've looked at for.
But at least it would get a deposit.
I would
on
have
a truck.
no problem
And-
recommending that we approve 200,000, if that's what the budget says.
All that money came in,
Yeah.
and it has been discussed with the
So
department.
there's a little bit of a cushion. I would have no problem with that, personally.
It's really the fire department if you feel comfortable going forward.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, again, you know, I say 150 only because I didn't want to overstep the bounds. Whatever it is, we're not, I mean, we have some pretty clear criteria of what we're looking for. And we're not gonna just jump on anything, cause you know, either a used equipment, you know, it's easy to buy new, it's easy to buy a brand new car, it's easy to buy, it's harder to buy used because you know, could be some challenges. I think it'd be a stretch for us at this point to go with 200 because there might be some hidden costs when we first get it to make sure, you know, we wanna bring it brought in. But I mean, if we do 200, doesn't mean we have to spend it, so,
No.
yeah.
No, I would say
No,
we
but
have,
a lot of those trucks too, you can get them for 150, but the same company might redo it for 30 or 40,
Right.
and you're one and done. And
yeah,
Yeah.
my only point is, then we have the cushion. And if we can afford the cushion, we go with the cushion.
That'd be great, I mean, that would make our life easier, so.
So not to get too in the weeds, and not that it's really any of my business, but the 20.
Kind of the council, it is your business.
No, I'm saying that from the fire department standpoint, if you have this 27,000 in capital coming in annually, and say after this pumper purchase, your next pumper purchase isn't until, you know, 2028.
But that's why we designed it, so this capital keeps on coming in, and so that's where they get the capital
So are we,
outlay plan
are we
in
putting
regards.
this are we gonna be putting this capital outlay into like a,
It's a separate fund,
but is it like going into a 4M investment account to grow as it's, or are we just keeping it set aside and not doing anything
well,
with it?
I'll be honest with you, Andy, we just literally got the last payment, so I can.
You haven't decided how you're gonna.
No, and if you're gonna
how
take
you're gonna stay
200
with
some
it.
thousand out of it for me to roll it into the 4M or to
Right.
roll it into CD, I can't really do that, you're not giving me enough time to play around
No,
with it,
no,
but
I'm saying that, but what I'm saying is, we should have a game plan for that fund.
if they don't spend it right away, I would strongly suggest taking advantage of any higher interest rates either on the 4M or on the CD. And if it, I mean, the CD for a 6-month CD right now is coming in at 4, 5.
And then,
So-
I guess what I'm saying is if the next benchmark is unless it's an emergency where you'd wanna get it out, but if the next benchmark isn't until 4 years down the road.
Yes, we
Let's-
should really consider investing in and making the most of it.
Yep.
And there's a really good horse racing this weekend that I
Yeah.
Trust me.
One of the 3 most dangerous phrases in the Air Force, when somebody says, trust me.
Hold the beer, no.
Yeah, the other one is when a colonel says, I've been thinking.
So, the council then would like to make this an additional agenda item
I would
tonight?
suggest we do. That would be my suggestion. Let's resolve this, because time is tight.
What,
And the supply chain is the supply chain, so if something comes out, to the chief's point, if something comes out, we need to be able to jump decisively.
What I like about this is, you guys, just so you know, is that right about now, the AFG grants will be starting to be awarded now. We have a grant application in there for gear, but there's some people who do it for trucks, although those are pretty elusive, they do happen. The nice thing is that when they start getting these grants, they'll start buying trucks, which means that there's in-service trucks and going on the market, so. There is a good timeline right now, too, so.
Yeah, we need to be postured for this, I would argue.
just so it's clear, what was gonna be the purchase year if we had bought new and could afford it?
It would have been 2 years from now.
Yeah,
2026?
It'd have been in 2025, but probably wouldn't go into service because of 2026.
Because it took that long.
We had talked about potentially, once we were a year that out, looking at a 0% interest loan through a utility that offers that's done that for other departments, so at least we get it on order, so that with the cost rising, it just,
Yeah.
and again, there's some ones that we've seen that were like, wow, that would really work for us, and there's some, ew, that wouldn't work for us, but, there's good ones out there, and there's, we have to buy something that's adapted to a rural fire department and that's what we're looking for, so.
So you were saying 150,000, what is your comfort level between the 150 and the 200 that Glenn was saying something about? I mean, if we can take that other money and leave it in a CD, what is your comfort level? What do you?
Well, ultimately, we don't know until each truck is unique, and that's the downside. Each truck is unique, and each truck has different variables to it of where it's at. Now, if you guys put money into a CD, and I'm probably speaking out of school here, so Chris, tell me to be quiet if I am, but we do have a separate equipment fund that it goes with fire calls. It's a township equipment fund is what it is, or whatever it is. And so the thing is that if we needed to bridge something between a CD coming to maturity and not, we could do that. It would just be a matter of shifting it around temporarily.
That was kind of what my question was. We need to take advantage of what's out there for the best we can get for any kind of interest, but I definitely don't want to shortchange anything that you need to do.
Right. Well, then in that case, yeah, we could use $750,000 for a brand new truck.
yeah,
Now she's willing to shortchange us. So no,
I got short under
we
on
appreciate
that one, yeah, no.
we appreciate the support of the council. We really do. But it's just that time where we really got to get serious about replacing that bumper.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
yeah. I put down 200,000.
That's what I have to.
Okay.
I really think we need that as a safety valve.
Okay.
Number 3 on the workshop is United Prairie Bank has requested that the city take second position on the loan, the $160,000 deferred loan, and it's on tonight's agenda.
Mr. Patrick, do you want to
The
say
subordination.
anything to that?
That's fine, we do it all the time. Next.
We were getting everything
Wow, that
ready
was
for the
quick.
fabric building at the golf course. Friday, they disconnected the power to the gray shed. The shed will be moved by the street department to house the wood for the campground. The tree stumps were ground down, and Chris met with Elite and the light plant regarding power and lighting.
just basically an update in regards to everything going on down there.
And I would only add that,
Did they happen to start?
I've been in my office all day, sorry.
the only part I was gonna add is the internet down there is killer. It's
Like it's good, or you have a problem?
No.
The open house for the government center here is planned for Friday, July 7th, that's the Friday of Park Days. The hours will be determined at a later date.
I'm planning it to be during the day, then staff will be here, and then the parade is that night, so I think that kind of works hand in hand.
Planning and zoning is meeting tomorrow, May 9th at 5 o'clock. On the agenda, they have trail footage on sidewalks at Faith Lutheran and surrounding area, a sign request for Cody Eager, a sign request for the city of Madelia. For the government center here, a sign request and cup for business and residential from Robert Delacruz. Proposal for sale of city-owned property and an in-ground pool request. Public hearings will be scheduled for May 22nd.
And then, I have quite a few, so keep on going.
Oh, the Golf Commission is meeting Wednesday, May 10th at 5 p.m.
Okay, the added things to the agenda tonight is we received a pay request number 2, for the water system SCADA, and, that was in the amount of $111,782, which puts us at 56.73% done with the project.
What's the amount?
$111,782. So, that will be an added agenda item. When we met also, this is number 9 on the workshop, when we met with the Water Wastewater Commission on Wednesday, May 3rd, we also, discussed, the current Louisville contract. So just like we contract with the city of St. James to hold our water and our wastewater license, we hold Louisville's water and wastewater. Due to the upcoming workload and everything, we will be, looking at, sending a 60-day notice of termination of the contract. Just because my staff can't go back and forth all the time.
No, they've got a lot of work going on down there.
And actually, their employee should be able to take his test, he should be, so really, they can get out of the contract if he take his test. Number 10 on the workshop, I received 2 electrical quotes for the water wastewater building. One from GAPA in the amount of $29,970. And one from Elite for $38,100. This also is another agenda item.
What were the numbers again? 29,970?
$29,970 from GAPA,
Yep.
and Elite was $38,100. That is all that I have. Sorry about all that.
Can I get a, no, we don't need a motion for this workshop, do we?
I would move that we close the workshop.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.